Hey guys, tonight we are going on a journey, a quiet descent into the very foundations of life. I want you to imagine for a moment a world as it once was, a world before us, before the first animal stirred, before the first fish swam. This was a place of endless gray skies, a harsh and unforgiving landscape. The air was a thick, poisonous soup of carbon dioxide, sulfur, and methane. A cocktail so lethal that you couldn't survive for more than a few minutes. In fact, if you were to somehow be transported back to that ancient earth, the very air you breathe would be your undoing. It would suffocate you, burn your lungs, and poison your blood, all within the span of a few panicked breaths. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you feel like it, let me know where you are right now. What city are you in, and what time is it for you? With that in mind, let's step back, far back into the deep past, and listen to the story of how that world was remade. I want you to picture the Earth not as a bustling, vibrant planet, but as a silent, barren canvas. The sun's light fell upon its surface, but there was no life to greet it in any meaningful way. It was a sunbeam without a destination, a grand theatrical performance with no audience. The air was heavy, the seas were dark, and the land was just rock and dust. Then something changed. On a microscopic scale, in the primordial oceans, a quiet revolution began. Tiny single-celled organisms, the ancestors of all plant life, discovered a secret, a way to harness that lonely sunlight. They were the first to perform a dance we now call photosynthesis. It was a gentle, almost imperceptible shift at first, but it was the start of something that would fundamentally alter the course of our planet's history. These were the first green architects, the silent, tireless engineers who would eventually build the world we know today. We often think of creation as a loud, violent act, a bang or a clash. But the beginning of life as we know it was a whisper. The first photosynthetic organisms, tiny as they were, began to exhale. They weren't breathing out carbon dioxide like us. They were breathing out oxygen, molecule by precious molecule. It was a process that took place over millions of years, an act of planetary scale terraforming. So slow, it's almost impossible to comprehend. Think of it as a painter adding a single, microscopic fleck of color to a vast canvas every 1,000 years. Eventually, that canvas begins to look different, but the change is so gradual, so patient, that it's almost a form of geological time-lapse photography. This patient exhaling of oxygen is what we call the Great Oxidation Event, or sometimes the oxygen catastrophe. It was a catastrophe for the organisms that existed at the time, because oxygen was a toxic poison to them. For millions of years, anaerobic life had thrived in a world without this element, and then, without a single sound, the rules of the game changed. This brings up one of those great unanswerable questions of biology. How did a planet-wide cataclysm, the introduction of a poison that killed off most of the life that existed at the time, ultimately pave the way for a stunning explosion of biodiversity? It's a paradox, isn't it? The very substance that makes our lives possible was, for a time, the bringer of mass extinction. It's a reminder that what we perceive as good or bad is entirely dependent on perspective and context. The same molecule that fuels your every thought and movement was once the very definition of a lethal pollutant. As the oxygen levels in the atmosphere slowly rose, a new layer began to form high above the Earth's surface. A portion of that new oxygen, bombarded by the sun's powerful ultraviolet radiation, rearranged itself into a 3-atom molecule, ozone. This new ozone layer acted like a shield, a cosmic parasol, protecting the planet from the very same rays that had created it. Without this shield, life as we know it could never have left the sea. The land would have been a place of constant solar fire, an uninhabitable wasteland. The first plants, and eventually the first animals, were able to venture onto the continents only because of this invisible, silent shield created by their microscopic ancestors. The green architects didn't just change the air. They built a roof over the entire house. The process of photosynthesis itself is a beautiful mystery. It is not just a chemical reaction. It's a profound act of alchemy. It's the ability to take something as intangible and wild as a beam of sunlight and to tame it, to transform its energy into the stuff of life, into sugar. This is the ultimate feat of energy capture, a quiet and elegant solution to a problem as old as the universe itself. How to store energy in a way that can be used later. Plants figured it out first, and they still do it better than we ever could. They are living batteries, constantly humming with the energy of the sun. They don't need a single wire or a complicated circuit board. They simply turn their leaves to the light and begin the silent, patient work of making food for themselves and for everything that will ever eat them. We are so far removed from this fundamental process that we forget its intimacy. When you eat an apple, you are not just consuming fruit. You are consuming sunlight that was captured a few months ago in an orchard, funneled through the leaves, and stored in a fleshy fruit. The energy that powers your muscles, the thoughts that flicker in your mind, all of it is, at its root, stored sunlight. The very act of living is a second-hand consumption of solar energy, filtered through the remarkable ingenuity of a plant. So when we talk about how plants make life possible, we're not just talking about oxygen, we're talking about energy. The energy that started with a tiny single-celled organism in a primeval sea, breathing out what it didn't need and changing everything. And so, the quiet revolution continues, day after day, in every leaf and blade of grass. The plants around us are still performing the same fundamental task that their ancestors began millions of years ago. A task that has shaped our atmosphere, our climate, and every living creature on this planet. They are the true masters of creation, the tireless builders of our world, and their work is far from over. The truth is, even with all our incredible modern technology and our deep scientific understanding, we can't truly replicate this quiet, living alchemy. We can split atoms and launch rockets into space, but we still can't build a machine that takes a beam of light and, with the elegant simplicity of a green leaf, transforms it into a tangible, edible form of energy. There's a beautiful humility in this, a reminder that the most profound technologies on our planet are not human-made. They are ancient, biological, and utterly essential. The very air you are breathing right now, every molecule of it, is a gift from these silent, green beings. It is an inheritance, passed down through billions of years of tireless work. I want you to think about what that means. Every time you inhale, you are participating in a conversation that started an eternity ago. Your breath is the second half of a sentence that a plant started. A plant absorbs the carbon dioxide we exhale, and in return, it gives us the oxygen we need to live. It's a fundamental covenant, a silent agreement that binds every animal to every plant on this planet. It's a loop of mutual dependence, a cycle so perfectly balanced that it feels less like a biological process and more like a work of art. And the bizarre, little-known scientific fact about this process is how intimately tied it is to something we consider mundane: rust. The great oxidation event was so profound that it led to the formation of massive iron deposits all over the world. The newly released oxygen, a poison to the existing life, bonded with dissolved iron in the oceans, causing it to precipitate out as rust. This created the massive banded iron formations that are a key part of geological records today. So, in a way, the oxygen that we breathe and that defines our world is the very same substance that created the rust-red stripes we see in ancient rocks. A beautiful, stark reminder of this cosmic scale transformation. This slow, deliberate, and entirely silent act of creation raises a profound question. What would have happened if those first microscopic organisms had never appeared? If Earth had remained a barren, airless rock, forever hostile to complex life? The very fact of our existence feels like a beautiful, improbable accident. We are here because of a small, quiet, persistent innovation that happened eons ago. It is a story of patience, a story of transformation, and a story of a silent, green architecture that holds up the very sky we live under. It is an ongoing narrative, a living tapestry that we are all a part of, woven from sunlight and chlorophyll. Remember how we talked about those silent, green architects? Tonight, I want us to zoom in, to shrink ourselves down to the size of a single molecule, and watch the grand performance they put on every single moment of every single day. This is the dance of photosynthesis, a silent symphony performed in countless microscopic theaters across the planet. Imagine the sun as a great conductor, and its light as the baton. And the musicians are the plants, their green leaves turned up to the sky, ready to play. The stage for this symphony is a tiny self-contained universe within a plant cell called a chloroplast. If a cell is a bustling city, the chloroplast is its primary power plant. It's a beautifully complex structure filled with stacks of flattened sacs called thylakoids. Think of these stacks as a miniature library where each book is a thylakoid, and on their surface, the secret of life is written. These thylakoids are lined with chlorophyll, the molecule that gives plants their green color. It's not just a pigment, it's the antenna that catches the sun's light. Chlorophyll is a remarkable molecule, almost perfectly tuned to absorb the energy from the red and blue parts of the light spectrum while reflecting the green. That's why the world looks so green to us. We are seeing the light that the plants politely decline to use. The first act of this performance is what scientists call the light-dependent reactions. It's a precise and intricate ballet. When a photon, a tiny particle of light, strikes a chlorophyll molecule, it excites an electron, giving it a burst of energy. This energized electron doesn't just fly off into space. It's passed along a molecular assembly line, a sort of bucket brigade of proteins embedded in the thylakoid membrane. As the electron is passed from one protein to the next, it releases a little bit of its energy at each step. This energy is used to power the production of two key molecules, ATP, which is like the cell's main energy currency, and NADPH, a molecule that will act as an electron carrier for the next stage. It's a beautifully efficient system, transforming raw, wild sunlight into a usable, stable form of chemical energy. It's like taking the wild force of a waterfall and using it to turn a turbine, creating electricity that can be stored and used later. But this is only half the story. ATP and NADPH are like ingredients that have been prepared in the kitchen. Now it's time to bake the cake. This is where the second act, the light-independent reactions, or the Calvin cycle, comes in. This part of photosynthesis doesn't require light directly, which is a common misconception. It's a continuous cycle that uses the energy stored in the ATP and NADPH from the first act to perform a magnificent feat of molecular construction. The plant takes in carbon dioxide from the air through tiny pores in its leaves called stomata. That carbon dioxide is then taken through a series of complex chemical reactions using the energy from ATP and NADPH and is turned into glucose, a sugar. Imagine a microscopic factory worker, a molecule called rubisco, patiently grabbing a carbon dioxide molecule from the air and attaching it to an existing 5-carbon sugar. It's the most abundant protein on Earth, and it's a remarkably slow and inefficient enzyme, which is one of those wonderful, slightly baffling mysteries of biology. Why would the very foundation of life, the enzyme responsible for capturing atmospheric carbon, be so clunky? It's a riddle that still piques the curiosity of scientists. Regardless of its speed, this process is how life as we know it is built. From that simple glucose molecule, a plant can create everything it needs: cellulose for its sturdy trunk, starch for energy storage, and the building blocks for every leaf, flower, and seed. So when a plant grows, it isn't just pulling nutrients from the soil. It's taking matter from the air around it. When you look at a massive oak tree, its sheer mass, its trunk, its branches, its leaves, most of that is solidified air. It's carbon that was once floating invisibly in the atmosphere, captured and transformed by this elegant two-part symphony. This is the profound truth of photosynthesis. Plants are the quiet, masterful bridge between the sky and the ground. They take the intangible light and air and turn them into the tangible stuff of life. The genius of this system is that it's not just about making food. It's about making a living, breathing connection. The oxygen the plant releases as a waste product of the first stage is our lifeblood. The sugar it creates is our primary fuel source, so the grand exchange continues. We exhale the carbon that a plant needs, and it exhales the oxygen that we need. We are, in a very real and fundamental sense, a part of the plant's breathing cycle, and it is a part of ours. It's a reciprocal relationship that is so deeply woven into the fabric of our world that we rarely even notice it. The more we learn, the more mysteries emerge. For instance, did you know that some deep-sea nudibranchs, a type of sea slug, can steal chloroplasts from the algae they eat? They don't just digest the algae, they incorporate the stolen chloroplasts into their own cells, and for a short time, they can perform photosynthesis themselves, just like a plant. It's a bizarre and beautiful example of a creature temporarily becoming something it is not, living off the sun's energy after a single meal. This kind of biological kleptomania reminds us that the boundaries between different forms of life are not as rigid as we once thought. The green world, it seems, has found ways to seep into every corner of existence. And this quiet, silent symphony plays on through the day and into the night. Even as the sun sets and the light-dependent reactions pause, the chemical energy stored during the day continues to power the plant, helping it grow and maintain itself. It's a reminder that life, at its core, is not a series of instantaneous events, but a continuous, flowing process, a patient cycle of creation and rest. We've journeyed through the air, watching as plants terraform a planet and turn sunlight into sugar. But tonight, I want us to go deeper, to descend into a world we rarely see and even more rarely think about, the kingdom beneath our feet. For the plant, the root system is far more than just an anchor. It is its hidden brain, its tireless circulatory system, and its silent, subterranean ambassador. The roots are the plant's connection to the vast, dark, and astonishingly complex universe of the soil. Picture a single plant, say a lone wildflower. We see its vibrant petals, its graceful stem, but what we don't see is the intricate and massive network of roots that spread out beneath it. For many plants, the root system is more extensive than the part of the plant we can see above ground. A single rye plant can grow over 380 miles of roots, with a surface area of over 6,800 square feet. It's an unfathomable labyrinth, a quiet and persistent exploration of the darkness. This exploration is not random. The roots are driven by an unyielding search for water and nutrients. But they don't simply absorb these things passively. The very tip of a root is a marvel of biological engineering. There's a small cap at the end, a protective shield that pushes through the soil, and just behind it, a zone of rapid cell division. This is the engine of growth, the forward scouts of the plant's underground army. And as the root grows, it's not just a blind, blunt instrument. It's a sensitive organ, able to sense gravity, moisture gradients, and even the chemical signals of its neighbors. It's this quiet, purposeful movement that allows a plant to navigate the unseen world and find what it needs to survive. The root, however, is not a solitary entity. It is a social creature, constantly interacting with the life around it. The soil is not just dirt. It's a bustling metropolis of microorganisms. There are fungi, bacteria, nematodes, and countless other tiny beings, all living in a complex, interconnected web. The plant's roots are in constant communication with this world. They excrete sugars and other compounds, providing food for the microorganisms, and in return, these tiny beings help the plant absorb nutrients. It's a symbiotic relationship, a silent trade agreement that has been in place for hundreds of millions of years. One of the most remarkable of these relationships is the one between a plant's roots and a type of fungus called mycorrhizae. The word itself means fungus root, and it's a perfect description. These fungi form a network of incredibly fine filaments, known as hyphae, that attach to the plant's roots. This fungal network acts as a vast extension of the root system, a kind of subterranean internet. The hyphae are much thinner than a root, so they can reach into the tiniest cracks and pores in the soil, bringing back water and nutrients, like phosphorus and nitrogen, that the plant might not otherwise be able to reach. In exchange, the plant provides the fungus with sugars it produced through photosynthesis. It's a beautiful example of mutualism, a partnership where both parties benefit. This relationship is so ancient and so vital that an estimated 90% of all plant species form a partnership with mycorrhizal fungi. Without this quiet, unseen collaboration, many of the forests, fields, and gardens we cherish simply would not exist. The plant may be the star of the show, but the fungus is the invisible stagehand, making the entire performance possible. This raises a fascinating philosophical question. Where does the plant end and the fungus begin? Are they not, in some profound sense, a single organism, a partnership so intimate that the line between them has blurred into non-existence? The root system also serves a vital purpose in communication. We'll delve deeper into the wood wide web later, but for now, consider how the roots can send and receive chemical messages. When a plant is attacked by a pest, its roots can release specific chemicals into the soil that alert other plants of the danger. It's a silent alarm system, a network of warning signals rippling through the dark earth. This kind of communication challenges our very notion of a plant as a passive, unthinking entity. It suggests a form of collective intelligence, a shared awareness that operates on a timescale we find difficult to grasp. And here is a bizarre and little-known fact about roots. The oldest living organism on Earth is not a tree, but a massive clonal colony of a quaking aspen tree in Utah. Known as pando, which means eye spread in Latin, this single organism is made up of over 40,000 genetically identical trees, all connected by a single colossal root system. It's estimated to be over 80,000 years old, a single living being that has survived for millennia, silently spreading and regenerating itself in the same place. It's a single brain, a single circulatory system, a single consciousness spread out over 106 acres of forest. It makes you wonder what kind of memories are held in that ancient root system, what stories are whispered through the ground, the next time you see a field of wildflowers or a single blade of grass pushing through the pavement. I want you to remember the immense, unseen world that lies beneath it, the quiet wisdom of the roots, their patient search, their silent alliances with the fungal kingdom, and their profound connection to the earth itself. They are the foundation of everything we see, the anchor of every life story, and the keeper of a patient, subterranean wisdom. We have journeyed from the air and descended into the quiet darkness of the soil, following the roots as they patiently anchor and explore. Tonight, I want us to rise again, to follow a different kind of current, a hidden river that flows through the heart of every plant. This is the story of water's pilgrimage, a beautiful and often bewildering journey that defies gravity, carrying life's essential supplies from the root to the highest, most distant leaf. Think of a tall tree, say a giant sequoia. It can reach heights of over 300 feet. Now consider the sheer physics of that. How does water, a simple fluid, make its way from the roots, deep in the earth, all the way to the top of the crown, against the relentless pull of gravity? For a long time, this was one of those great, tantalizing mysteries of botany. It seems to go against everything we know about how things work. But the answer lies in a combination of fascinating physical properties and a clever biological mechanism. The journey begins with the roots, which we explored in our last conversation. They absorb water from the soil through a process called osmosis. Water naturally moves from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration, and since the inside of a root cell is full of various salts and sugars, it has a lower water concentration than the surrounding soil. This creates a gentle but continuous pressure, pushing water into the roots and starting its long climb. This is the first push, a kind of silent, subterranean pump. Once inside the roots, the water travels up through the plant's vascular system, a network of tiny straw-like tubes called xylem. These tubes run all the way from the roots, through the stem, and out into every leaf and vein. The water moves up the xylem in a continuous column, and this is where the magic really begins. This is where we encounter the phenomenon of capillary action. You've seen this in action if you've ever dipped a paper towel into water. The water seems to climb up the towel on its own. It's a result of two key properties of water: cohesion, where water molecules are attracted to each other, and adhesion, where they are attracted to other surfaces. In the incredibly narrow xylem tubes, the water molecules cling to the sides of the tubes and to each other, pulling the entire column of water upwards. It's like a chain of microscopic hands, each one holding onto the next, slowly pulling the whole chain higher and higher. But capillary action alone isn't strong enough to lift water 300 feet into the air. The final and most crucial part of the process happens in the leaves. This is where transpiration takes place. The leaves of a plant are filled with tiny pores called stomata, which we mentioned briefly before. During the day, as the plant performs photosynthesis, these stomata open to take in carbon dioxide. When they open, water vapor escapes into the atmosphere. This is the same principle as sweating, but for a plant. When a water molecule leaves the plant, it pulls on the next molecule in the column, which pulls on the next, and so on, all the way down to the roots. It's a continuous, powerful pull, a kind of biological vacuum that draws water up the entire length of the plant. This is often called the cohesion tension theory, and it's a beautiful, elegant solution to the problem of gravity. The plant isn't actively pushing the water up. It's using the subtle forces of physics to pull it up, molecule by molecule, in a continuous, unbroken chain. The entire process is powered by the sun, which provides the energy to evaporate the water from the leaves, and by the special properties of water itself. This system is so efficient that a large tree can transpire hundreds of gallons of water a day, each gallon a silent pilgrimage from the soil to the sky. This raises a deep philosophical question. What are the limits of this silent, determined journey? Scientists still wonder if there's a maximum height for a tree, a point where the pull of transpiration can no longer overcome the weight of the water column. Is there a physical ceiling to the ambition of a tree? The fact that we still find new record-breakingly tall trees suggests that we don't really know the answer for sure. Here's a little-known fact that adds to the mystery. While the xylem is the main highway for water, the plant also has another vascular system called the phloem. While xylem moves water and nutrients up, phloem is the network that moves the sugars produced during photosynthesis down to the rest of the plant, like the roots and the fruits. but the phloem can also move substances up, creating a complex, two-way highway of nutrient transport. This dual system, one for water and one for sugar, is a testament to the intricate and thoughtful engineering of a plant. It's not just a simple one-way street. It's a living, breathing circulatory system that can deliver what's needed, where it's needed, with incredible precision. So, the next time you walk past a plant and see its leaves rustling gently in the breeze, remember the silent river that is flowing within it. Remember the patient, upward journey of every drop of water, pulled by the energy of the sun and the incredible cohesive strength of the water molecules themselves. It is a quiet testament to the fact that the most incredible forces in the universe are often the most subtle and the most persistent. We've traced the lifeblood of a plant, from the quiet darkness of the soil to the very tips of its leaves. But a plant is not just a self-contained system. It is a profound participant in a global network of life, and for many plants, the most important part of their life cycle, the very act of creating the next generation, relies on an intricate and sometimes bizarre partnership with the animal kingdom. Tonight, let's look at the flower. It is not just a beautiful decoration. It is a work of masterful deception, a silent co-conspirator in a dance of pollination. The flower is a plant's grand advertisement, a billboard designed to attract attention. But it's not for us. It's for bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and countless other creatures. Every color, every shape, every scent is a carefully crafted message, a promise of a reward. These promises are not just a kind of biological marketing. They are the result of millions of years of coevolution, a patient conversation between plant and pollinator. A flower's bright yellow petals are a clear signal to a bee, for instance, which sees in the ultraviolet spectrum and perceives patterns and lines on the petals that are invisible to us. A kind of living map, guiding the bee to the nectar within. Consider the orchid. Many orchids have evolved to look like the female of a specific insect species. When a male insect lands on the flower, thinking it has found a mate, it's not only fooled, but also becomes a passive participant in the pollination process. As the insect rubs against the flower, a packet of pollen gets attached to its body, and it carries this genetic cargo to the next duped flower, completing the plant's reproductive cycle. This is a masterful act of biological mimicry, a gentle but complete deception. But the most famous and essential co-conspirator is the bee. Bees and flowers have been evolving together for over 100 million years, a partnership so successful that it has shaped entire ecosystems. The flower offers a sugary reward, nectar, and a protein-rich food source, pollen, and in return, the bee, collecting these treats, inadvertently transfers pollen from one flower to another. It's a transaction built on mutual need, a beautiful, unwritten contract. A strange and wonderful fact about this relationship is something called buzz pollination. While most bees can simply land on a flower to collect pollen, some plants, like tomatoes and blueberries, hold their pollen tightly in their anthers. They require a specific method of extraction. A bee must land on the flower and vibrate its flight muscles at a certain frequency, causing the flower to release a puff of pollen. This is a very specific, almost percussive technique, and without it, many of these plants would not be able to reproduce. It's a reminder of the intricate secret languages that exist in nature. The relationship between flowers and pollinators is a perfect example of how life isn't just a competitive struggle, but is also a grand, collaborative project. It raises a fascinating philosophical question. Is this partnership an act of pure utility? Or is there a kind of communication happening? A subtle dialogue between two entirely different forms of life. The flower is not a brain, yet it creates a complex set of cues to manipulate the behavior of a pollinator. The pollinator is not a linguist, yet it understands the flower's promise. It's a beautiful mystery, a language without words that has shaped our world. But this dance isn't always gentle. Some plants have developed more aggressive tactics. The pitcher plant, for example, has evolved a deadly allure. Its flowers and leaves are shaped like a pitcher, filled with a sweet nectar that draws in insects. The inside of the pitcher is lined with downward-pointing hairs, making escape impossible. The insect falls in and is slowly dissolved by the digestive fluids at the bottom. The plant then absorbs the nutrients from its victim. This is a dark twist on the beautiful partnership, a reminder that the line between mutualism and predation is sometimes a very fine one. This brings us to a deep and unsettling question. What would happen if this quiet dance stopped? If the pollinators were to vanish? The truth is, we are already seeing the devastating consequences of this. As bee populations decline due to habitat loss and pesticide use, the ripple effect on our ecosystems is profound. Many of the foods we rely on, from almonds to apples to avocados, would cease to exist in their current form. It's a stark reminder that our lives are woven into this tapestry, and when a single thread is pulled, the entire fabric begins to unravel. So the flower, in all its silent beauty, is a testament to the power of connection. It is the bridge between the plant and the animal, the past and the future. It is a promise, a riddle, and a warning, all wrapped in a delicate and vibrant package. And it's a reminder that even the most seemingly simple acts of nature are the result of a long, patient history of collaboration. The graceful dance between flower and pollinator is a beautiful story of collaboration, but it is just one chapter in a much larger narrative. Tonight, I want us to consider the end of that dance, a moment of quiet potential that holds the blueprint for all future life. I want us to look at the seed. A seed is not just a kernel or a bean. It is a miniature time capsule, a complete plan for a future plant, encased in a protective shell, patiently waiting for its moment to awaken. Think about the staggering biological engineering of a seed. Within that tiny package is everything a new plant needs to begin its life. There is the embryo, a microscopic plant in waiting, complete with a tiny root and a tiny shoot. There is a store of food, called the endosperm, or cotyledon, which will nourish the embryo during its first few days of growth, before it can produce its own food through photosynthesis. And finally, there is the tough outer seed coat, a fortress designed to protect its precious cargo from the harsh realities of the outside world. From extreme temperatures to hungry animals, this protective quality is what makes the seed such an incredible survivor. Many seeds are capable of lying dormant for a very long time, sometimes for decades or even centuries, waiting for the perfect conditions to germinate. In fact, a truly bizarre and wonderful scientific discovery highlights this resilience. In 2005, a team of scientists in Israel germinated a date palm seed that had been found in an excavation of Masada, an ancient fortress. Carbon dating revealed the seed to be over 2,000 years old. It was given the name Methuselah after the biblical patriarch, and it grew into a living, breathing tree. Just imagine that. A tree that is a direct link to the time of Jesus, a living witness to a history we only read about in books. It's a profound thought, isn't it? The past, somehow still quietly and patiently alive, holding a secret for the future. But what are the perfect conditions that finally signal to a seed that it is time to wake up? This is a fundamental mystery of plant biology. It's a complex recipe that often involves a combination of factors: the right amount of moisture, a specific temperature, and sometimes a little something extra. For some seeds, that something extra is a period of cold known as vernalization, which mimics the passage of winter. For others, it's the intense heat of a forest fire, a signal that the parent tree has died and the ground has been cleared of competition, an almost violent but necessary cue. This ability to wait, to be so perfectly in tune with its environment, is a testament to the patient intelligence of the plant. A seed knows, in a way we don't fully understand, when the time is right. This patient waiting is a key part of the larger story of how plants make life possible. It ensures that the plant doesn't waste its precious resources by germinating in a year of drought or during a cold snap that would kill the tiny seedling. It's a risk management strategy of the highest order, a quiet form of biological foresight. The truth is, we don't fully understand all the molecular mechanisms that control this long dormancy. What is happening on a cellular level inside that seed during its centuries-long slumber? How is the blueprint for life kept in perfect stasis without degrading? This is still a subject of active research, a beautiful and complex riddle that is still waiting to be fully solved. And a seed's journey doesn't end with its waiting. It has to get from the parent plant to a new home. This is where plants have evolved some of the most ingenious and varied strategies. Some seeds are encased in delicious fruits, a bribe to an animal to eat the fruit and carry the seed far away, to be deposited in a new location, often with a little package of fertilizer. Others are designed to be carried by the wind, with tiny parachute-like structures that catch the breeze. Others still have clever hooks and barbs that latch onto an animal's fur, acting like a biological hitchhiker. Each of these dispersal methods is a testament to the plant's quiet ambition, its desire to spread its life and legacy to a new corner of the world. So, the next time you hold a seed in your hand, don't just see a tiny speck of matter. See the immense potential, the history, the future, and the intricate biological engineering that lies within it. It is a promise of a forest to come, a testament to the resilience of life, and a beautiful, silent time capsule that connects us to a patient, ancient past. We've traced the life of a seed, that tiny time capsule, and seen how it holds a complete blueprint for the future. But what if I told you that a forest is more than just a collection of individual trees? What if it's a single interconnected community, a silent and sprawling consciousness? Tonight, let's descend once more into the soil, but this time with a new purpose, to explore the vast unseen fungal networks, the wood wide web, that connect plants, allowing them to communicate and share resources. For centuries, we viewed plants as competitors, fighting for sunlight, water, and nutrients. And in many ways, they are. But a more complete picture has emerged in recent decades, one that reveals a profound system of cooperation happening right under our feet. The key players in this silent collaboration are the mycorrhizal fungi we touched on earlier. These fungi form a symbiotic relationship with plant roots, but their network of fine, thread-like filaments, called hyphae, extends far beyond a single plant. They weave together to form a vast subterranean web, a living biological internet that can span miles. This network, often referred to as the wood wide web, is a two-way street. The fungi receive carbon in the form of sugars from the plant, which they cannot produce on their own. In return, the fungi act as a kind of superroot system for the plants. Their hyphae are much finer than even the smallest root hair, allowing them to access nutrients and water in the soil that would otherwise be out of reach. They are particularly good at scavenging for phosphorus and nitrogen, which are often scarce and difficult for plants to absorb. It's a trade of sugar for nutrients, a perfect and patient alliance that benefits everyone connected to the network. But the story gets even more interesting. This network isn't just about sharing resources. It's also a system of communication. Scientists have found evidence that plants can send signals through this fungal web. For example, a mother tree, an older, larger tree in a forest, can use the network to send carbon and other nutrients to younger, shaded seedlings that are struggling to get enough sunlight. It's a quiet, nurturing act, a form of biological altruism that challenges our individualistic view of nature. It's like a parent sharing food with a child, a powerful and ancient bond. The network can also be used to send warning signals. When a plant is attacked by an insect pest, it can release specific chemicals into its roots. These chemicals are then transported through the fungal network to nearby plants, alerting them to the danger. The neighboring plants, upon receiving this silent warning, can then ramp up their defenses, producing their own repellent chemicals to ward off the incoming threat. It's a form of collective intelligence, a shared awareness that operates on a timescale we find difficult to grasp. The forest, it seems, can think and feel as a single entity, sharing information and coordinating a response to danger. A bizarre and little-known fact that adds to the mystery is that this network can also be used for what some have called biological espionage. Some parasitic plants, like certain types of orchids, can tap into the fungal network and steal nutrients and carbon from other healthier plants. They use the very same system of communication and resource sharing to their own selfish advantage. It's a reminder that even in this beautiful, collaborative world, there are those who take more than they give. This brings up a deep philosophical question. If a forest can share resources and send warning signals, can it have a form of memory? Can the older trees, the mother trees that have been connected to the network for centuries, hold a kind of historical record of the forest's past? Do they remember past droughts or fires? And can they use this memory to help the younger trees survive future hardships? The truth is, we don't know the answer for sure. We are only just beginning to unravel the secrets of this hidden world. So the next time you walk through a forest, I want you to see it with new eyes. Don't just see the trees, but the invisible web of life that connects them all. See the silent conversations happening beneath your feet, the patient sharing of resources, and the beautiful, complex alliances that make this world possible. The forest, it turns out, is a single breathing organism, a patient and wise elder that holds the secrets of life in its hidden, subterranean heart. We have explored the silent alliances and secret communication of the Wood Wide Web, that living, fungal internet. But tonight, I want to consider a different kind of alliance, one that is not about creation, but about destruction. It may sound counterintuitive, but the process of decay is just as vital to the continuation of life as photosynthesis or pollination. Let's delve into the world of the Earth's hidden alchemists, the decomposers. In nature, nothing is ever truly wasted. When a tree falls in a forest, when a leaf withers and dies, when an animal breathes its last, it isn't the end of a story. It's the beginning of a new chapter. The work of breaking down this organic matter, of recycling the molecules of life, is done by an astonishingly diverse and tireless crew of microscopic and macroscopic organisms. These are the decomposers, the fungi, bacteria, beetles, earthworms, and countless other silent workers who turn death into new life. Imagine a single fallen leaf. We see it as a simple discarded thing, but it is a complex and highly structured object, a storehouse of carbon, nitrogen, and other essential nutrients. Left alone, it would take centuries to break down, but the decomposers go to work immediately. First, tiny bacteria and fungi begin to soften the leaf, breaking down its tough outer layers. Then, larger decomposers, like earthworms and millipedes, arrive, and they shred the leaf into smaller pieces, increasing its surface area and making it easier for the microorganisms to continue their work. It's a precise, multi-stage process, a kind of biological deconstruction team. The fungi, with their web of hyphae, are particularly masterful at this. They excrete powerful enzymes that can break down some of the toughest materials on Earth, like the lignin in wood. It is a slow, patient process, but it is the foundation of a healthy ecosystem. As the decomposers break down the organic matter, they release the nutrients, the carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, back into the soil, where they become available for the living plants to absorb through their roots. This is the nutrient cycle, a never-ending loop of creation, death, and rebirth. This cycle is the very backbone of life on Earth. Without it, the living world would quickly grind to a halt. All the nutrients would be locked up in dead organic matter, and new life would have no building blocks to draw from. The silent, tireless work of the decomposers is what makes the whole system go. They are the great recyclers, the patient custodians of the planet's resources. The entire forest, the entire planet, is a beautiful and complex machine that runs on this quiet, constant process of decay and renewal. A bizarre and little-known fact about this process is how intimately tied it is to something we often see as a sign of disease: rot. The decay of a log or a stump is not a sign of sickness. It is a sign of life at work. The vibrant colors and shapes of a mushroom on a fallen tree are the visible parts of a massive fungal network that is diligently breaking down the wood. The soft, rich smell of forest soil is the scent of countless organisms transforming death into new life. The very smell of the earth is, in a way, the fragrance of this grand, patient alchemy. This raises a deep philosophical question. Can we, as humans, ever truly replicate this process? We have invented recycling plants and composting systems, but they are clumsy mechanical approximations of a process that nature performs with such effortless grace and efficiency. The truth is, we don't have a deep intuitive understanding of the interconnectedness of all these processes. We can't simply pour a bottle of nutrients on the soil and expect it to have the same effect as a century of patient decay. There's a mystery there, a kind of biological elegance that we can only admire. So, the next time you see a fallen log covered in moss and mushrooms, don't just see decay. See the quiet work of the earth's hidden alchemists. See the end of one life and the beginning of countless others. See the profound, patient cycle that ensures that nothing is ever truly lost, and that every end is just a new beginning. We've explored the quiet wisdom of the roots, the unseen communication of the fungal web, and the patient alchemy of decay. But tonight, I want us to look at something much grander, a physical testament to a long and patient history. I want us to consider the forest's collective memory. When you walk through an ancient forest, you are not just surrounded by trees. You are surrounded by living historians, each one a silent record keeper of the past. The most obvious way a tree records history is through its growth rings. Every year, a tree adds a new layer of wood to its trunk. In the spring and summer, when there is plenty of water and nutrients, the cells grow quickly, forming a light, wide ring. In the autumn and winter, growth slows down, creating a dark, thin ring. By studying these patterns, scientists can read a tree's life story like a book. A wide ring tells of a year of abundance and health. A narrow ring might signal a year of drought, or an insect infestation, or a long cold winter. By analyzing the rings of a tree that lived for centuries, we can create a detailed record of the climate in that region, stretching back in time far beyond any human-written history. This field of study is called dendrochronology, and it's a powerful tool for understanding our planet's past. But the tree's memory is even more subtle than that. The rings don't just record climate. They record the entire history of the forest. Scientists can find evidence of past fires, for example, in the form of burn scars on the rings. They can even find traces of a past volcanic eruption by looking at the chemical signatures in the wood. When a volcano erupts, it releases tiny particles into the atmosphere that are then absorbed by the trees. By studying the chemical makeup of a single growth ring, we can pinpoint the exact year of a long-forgotten geological event. The tree is a silent witness, a quiet keeper of Earth's secrets. This brings up one of those great, tantalizing mysteries. Does a tree have a kind of memory? Can a tree remember a drought from 100 years ago and use that information to prepare for a new one? While a tree doesn't have a brain in the way we do, its entire physical structure is a record of its past, a kind of living archive. Its growth patterns, its chemical makeup, its very shape is a product of its history. In a sense, the tree's memory is its very being. It is a testament to the idea that the past is never truly gone. It is simply absorbed and expressed in a new form. A bizarre and little-known fact about this is that trees can also tell us about human history. For example, by studying ancient wood from buildings or historical artifacts, scientists can create a master chronology for a region. They can then use this master chronology to date other wooden objects, like old paintings or furniture, with incredible precision. This has been used to authenticate historical documents and works of art, proving that a tree's memory can be a key to unlocking human history as well. This raises a deep philosophical question. What does it mean to be a living record of the past? We are so focused on our own, short-lived lives that we forget that we are surrounded by beings that have lived through centuries, that have witnessed generations of humans come and go. A single ancient redwood has seen the rise and fall of empires, the invention of cars and planes, and the entire human journey into space. It has a perspective on time that is so vast, it's almost impossible for us to comprehend. So the next time you look at an old tree, I want you to see it not just as a plant, but as a living monument, a quiet historian, a keeper of secrets. See the rings of its life and the countless stories they tell. See the profound connection between its past and its present, and its quiet, patient wisdom. We've listened to the ancient stories written in the growth rings of trees, and we've glimpsed the collective memory of the forest. But tonight, I want to explore a different kind of memory, a more immediate form of communication. We've talked about the wood wide web, but that is only one part of the conversation. I want us to consider how plants communicate not just with each other, but with their entire environment, using a silent language of chemicals and compounds. This is the unseen language of plants. For a long time, we viewed plants as static, passive entities, simply reacting to the world around them. But the truth is far more dynamic and fascinating. Plants are constantly sending and receiving chemical signals, communicating their needs, their distress, and their intentions. This is a form of biological semaphore, a quiet and constant dialogue that is invisible to the naked eye. The most common form of this communication is through volatile organic compounds, or VOCE. These are fragrant chemicals that are released into the air by plants. We often associate them with pleasant smells, the scent of a freshly mowed lawn, the fragrance of a rose, the piney aroma of a forest. But these scents are not just for our enjoyment. They are a kind of aerial language, carrying messages to other plants, to insects, and even to us. For example, when a plant is being attacked by an insect pest, it can release a specific cocktail of VOCs into the air. This is a cry for help, a silent distress signal. A nearby plant that receives this signal can then ramp up its defenses, producing chemicals that make its leaves less palatable to the insect, or even releasing a specific chemical that attracts the insect's predator. It's a beautiful, cooperative act, a biological version of a neighborhood watch. But the conversation goes even deeper. A plant can also use these signals to communicate with itself. For instance, when a plant's leaves are being eaten, it can send chemical signals to its other leaves, alerting them to the danger. This is a form of internal systemic communication, a kind of nervous system without the nerves. It challenges our very notion of what a nervous system is and how intelligence operates in the natural world. This raises a deep philosophical question. If a plant can communicate, can it think? The truth is, we don't know for sure. It's a question that has no easy answer and reminds us of the vast mystery that still surrounds the plant kingdom. A bizarre and little-known fact about this is that some plants can use these chemical signals to eavesdrop on other plants. For instance, when a sagebrush is clipped, it releases a type of VOC. A nearby wild tobacco plant can detect this signal and respond by producing a chemical that makes it more resistant to insect attacks. This suggests a form of biological listening, a quiet and constant state of awareness. The natural world is a more talkative and interconnected place than we ever imagined. This silent language also extends to the animal kingdom. We've talked about how flowers use color and scent to attract pollinators, but plants can also use VOCs to repel unwanted visitors. A plant can release a chemical that is a clear signal to a browsing deer that its leaves will taste bitter, or it can even produce a chemical that makes a spider feel ill, causing it to leave. These chemical conversations are happening all around us, a silent and constant negotiation between different forms of life. So the next time you smell the fresh, earthy scent of a forest or the sweet aroma of a flower, I want you to see it with new eyes. Don't just see a smell. See a message. See a silent conversation happening all around you. A complex and beautiful language that is a testament to the patient and subtle intelligence of the plant world. We've listened to the silent whispers of chemical communication and marveled at the quiet intelligence of plants. But tonight, I want to bring our journey back to a single, profound, and utterly essential connection, the one between their life and our own. This is the story of our breath, their gift, and the fundamental covenant that makes our shared existence possible. Think for a moment about your own breath. It is the rhythm of your life, an unconscious act that happens thousands of times a day. We inhale and we exhale, but we rarely think about what we're actually doing. The act of breathing is a profound exchange, a silent negotiation that happens with the entire world around us. And at the heart of this negotiation is the plant. When we inhale, we take in oxygen. This oxygen is then transported by our blood to every cell in our body, where it is used to break down the sugars from the food we eat, a process called cellular respiration. This process is what releases the energy that powers every thought, every movement, and every beat of our heart. In return, as a waste product, we exhale carbon dioxide. This is the simple, elegant half of the equation that we are responsible for. Now consider the plant. It does the opposite. Through the process of photosynthesis, which we explored in our second conversation, the plant inhales carbon dioxide. It takes that waste from our breath and uses it as a fundamental building block, combining it with sunlight and water to create the very sugars that give it life. And as a waste product of its own, the plant exhales oxygen. This is a perfect reciprocal loop, a beautiful and unbreakable bond. The plant's waste product is our lifeblood, and our waste product is its food. This cycle is not a coincidence. It is the fundamental engine of our shared biosphere. The very air we breathe is a direct and continuous gift from the plant kingdom. Without the tireless work of plants, from the microscopic algae in the ocean to the towering trees in the forest, our atmosphere would be a completely different place, a place where we could not survive. The air you are breathing right now, every single molecule of oxygen in it, is a testament to this silent covenant. It is a gift passed down through billions of years of patient, tireless work. Here's a bizarre and little-known fact that highlights this connection. Oxygen levels in the atmosphere have not always been constant. In the Carboniferous period, about 300 million years ago, oxygen levels were much higher than they are today, reaching up to 35%. This was due to a massive proliferation of plants and the slow decay of organic matter, which was trapped in swamps and eventually turned into coal, preventing the carbon from being released back into the atmosphere. This high level of oxygen is believed to be one of the factors that allowed for the evolution of giant insects and other creatures during that time. It's a powerful reminder that our entire physical reality, from the size of an insect to the pace of our breath, is fundamentally shaped by the quiet work of plants. This raises a deep philosophical question. What does it mean to live in a state of complete and utter dependence? We, in our modern world, have a profound illusion of control. We build cities, invent machines, and feel as though we are masters of our domain. But the truth is, every single breath we take is a reminder that we are utterly dependent on a quiet, green world that we often take for granted. This is a humbling realization, a quiet call to gratitude. So, the next time you feel the simple, rhythmic act of breathing in and out, I want you to feel the profound connection that it represents. It is not just an act of survival. It is a conversation, a silent exchange, a gift. Your breath is a profound, living testament to the patient and tireless work of the green world. And it is a beautiful, constant reminder that we are all, in the end, one family, bound by the simple, elegant exchange of air. We have meditated on the profound, silent exchange of breath, that fundamental covenant between plant and animal. Tonight, I want us to zoom in one more time to the very engine of this exchange. Let's travel to the heart of a plant, to a single, ordinary-looking leaf. This leaf is not just a passive surface. It is a living solar panel, a microscopic marvel of biological engineering, and the true factory of our biosphere. Hold a leaf in your hand. What do you see? You see its shape, its color, its delicate veins. But what you can't see is the intricate, bustling city that exists within it. The surface of a leaf is a remarkable piece of architecture. It is covered in a waxy layer called the cuticle, which is a plant's first defense against water loss and pathogens, and scattered across its surface, especially on the underside, are thousands of tiny microscopic pores called stomata. These stomata are like the windows and doors of the leaf's factory. They are controlled by two specialized guard cells that can open and close, regulating the flow of gases in and out of the leaf. When the sun is shining and the plant needs to perform photosynthesis, the guard cells swell and open the stomata, allowing carbon dioxide to enter and oxygen to exit. When the sun sets or the plant is under water stress, the guard cells wilt and close the stomata, conserving precious water. It's a beautifully simple, elegant, and efficient system, a kind of biological self-regulation that has kept plants alive for hundreds of millions of years. Once inside the leaf, the carbon dioxide is taken into the mesophyll cells, the main tissue of the leaf. It is in these cells that we find the true power plants of the leaf, the chloroplasts. We have talked about them before, but let's look at them in more detail. A single mesophyll cell can contain dozens or even hundreds of chloroplasts. Each chloroplast is a tiny self-contained universe with its own DNA and its own internal structures, suggesting that they were once independent organisms that were absorbed by a plant cell long ago, a theory called endosymbiosis. This is one of those fantastic and profound ideas in biology, that a plant cell is a partnership between two very different life forms, a kind of peaceful ancient cohabitation. Within the chloroplasts, we find the stacks of thylakoids, which are filled with chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, as we know, is the molecule that captures the energy from sunlight. But it doesn't just capture all light equally. It is most efficient at absorbing the red and blue wavelengths of the light spectrum while reflecting the green. This is why plants look green to us. But here's a bizarre and little-known fact that adds a layer to the mystery. While we see the vibrant green, some animals, like certain birds and insects, can see in the ultraviolet spectrum. To them, the leaves of a plant might have complex patterns or markings that are completely invisible to us, a kind of secret map or a silent message. This reminds us that our perception of the world is not the only one, and that a plant might be communicating in a way we can't even begin to comprehend. This all happens on a scale that is nearly impossible to imagine. The number of chloroplasts in a single forest is astronomical, and each one is performing its quiet work, turning sunlight into sugar, and in the process, shaping the very air we breathe. This raises a deep philosophical question. Is there a kind of quiet consciousness happening on a cellular level? A million tiny factories, all working in perfect synchrony, each one a self-sufficient unit, but all contributing to a larger whole. Is a leaf simply a collection of cells, or is it a single living, breathing entity with a purpose? The truth is, we don't really know for sure. So, the next time you feel the texture of a leaf, I want you to remember the immense, invisible world within it. The microscopic stomata, opening and closing like tiny mouths. The bustling, chloroplast-filled cells, humming with the quiet energy of the sun. See it not just as a part of a plant, but as a living solar panel, a true factory of life, and a profound, beautiful testament to the quiet, constant work that sustains us all. We have explored the intricate world of the leaf, that living solar panel, and glimpsed the patient alchemy that happens within it. But tonight, I want to take our journey to an even deeper and more mysterious level. I want us to step beyond the known into the strange and unsettling world of quantum mechanics and consider the possibility that plants, in their quiet work, are harnessing secrets that even the greatest human minds are still trying to unravel. This is the story of the plant's quantum secrets. For decades, scientists viewed photosynthesis as a purely classical process, a series of chemical reactions governed by the laws of traditional physics. But a new and more radical idea has been gaining traction: that photosynthesis, at its most fundamental level, is a quantum process. It's not just about light and molecules. It's about the bizarre and counterintuitive laws that govern the subatomic world. Think about the first stage of photosynthesis, the light-dependent reactions. When a photon of sunlight excites an electron in a chlorophyll molecule, this energized electron then needs to find its way through a dense, complex network of proteins to a reaction center where its energy can be stored and used. On a classical level, we would expect this to be a random and chaotic journey. The electron would bounce around, losing energy at each step, and it would be a very inefficient process. But photosynthesis is almost 100% efficient. How is this possible? The answer, some physicists believe, lies in a quantum phenomenon called superposition. In the quantum world, a particle can exist in multiple states at the same time. This means that the electron, when it is excited by the photon, doesn't just choose a single path to the reaction center. It takes all possible paths at once. It's like a person trying to find their way through a crowded room by walking through every single possible route simultaneously. It only chooses the most efficient path at the very last second, when it arrives at its destination. This is called a quantum walk, and it would explain how the plant can get the energy to where it needs to go with such incredible speed and precision. This is a beautiful and mind-bending idea, isn't it? The tree outside your window, in its patient, quiet work, may be a living quantum computer, effortlessly solving a problem that still confounds our most powerful supercomputers. It is a reminder that the natural world is far stranger and more complex than we ever imagined, and that there are layers of reality operating right under our noses that we are only just beginning to perceive. A bizarre and little-known fact that adds to this mystery is that some birds, like robins, are believed to use a similar quantum mechanism to navigate. Their ability to sense the Earth's magnetic field and thus find their way during migration is thought to be based on a quantum process involving a protein in their eyes. This suggests that the quantum world isn't just a theoretical playground for physicists. It's a fundamental part of how living things operate, a quiet and elegant solution to some of life's most difficult problems. This raises a profound and unsettling question. If plants are harnessing quantum effects, what else are they doing that we don't know about? What other secrets of the universe are they quietly and patiently employing in their daily work? The truth is, we don't have a clear answer. This is still a frontier of science, a place where biology and physics merge into a beautiful and complex riddle. So, the next time you see a leaf reaching for the sun, I want you to remember that it is doing more than just sitting there. It is performing a silent, elegant, and almost magical act of quantum mastery. It is a living testament to the fact that the most incredible things in the universe are often the most subtle and the most unexpected. We have journeyed from the vast, ancient past to the strange quantum secrets of the present. But tonight, our journey takes a more somber turn. We must look at the quiet world of plants not just as a source of wonder, but as a living system under immense stress. This is a reflection on the fading green and our reckoning with the profound impact of our actions on our shared existence. The plant kingdom is the very foundation of our world. It produces the oxygen we breathe, the food we eat, and the raw materials that build our homes and cities. It regulates our climate and protects our soil from erosion. It is, in every sense of the word, a quiet but powerful force for stability. Yet, in our modern era, we are treating this foundation with a kind of reckless disregard. The most visible sign of this disregard is deforestation. We are cutting down forests at an alarming rate, clearing land for agriculture, for logging, and for urban development. We are not just removing trees. We are dismantling a complex, interconnected system. We are destroying the collective memory of the forest, the hidden wisdom of the roots, and the intricate web of communication that we have just begun to understand. We are trading a living, breathing ecosystem for a short-term gain, and the price of that trade is far greater than we can yet comprehend. But deforestation is only part of the story. The subtle, unseen challenges are just as profound. Climate change, driven by our own emissions, is altering the very conditions that plants need to thrive. Rising temperatures and changing rainfall patterns are disrupting the delicate balance of ecosystems. A plant that has evolved for a specific climate over millions of years may suddenly find that its home is too hot, too dry, or too wet. This forces a choice: adapt, migrate, or die. Many species cannot adapt fast enough, and a migration that takes centuries for a plant is happening in a few short decades. Another quiet threat comes from pesticides and herbicides. These chemicals, designed to protect crops from pests and weeds, have a devastating ripple effect on the entire ecosystem. We've seen the impact on pollinators, like the bees, whose populations are in a rapid decline. This decline threatens the entire agricultural system that we rely on for food. We are, in a sense, using a sledgehammer to solve a problem that requires the precision of a scalpel, and in the process, we are damaging the very foundation that holds us up. This brings us to a deep and unsettling question. What would a world without a vibrant, healthy plant kingdom look like? The truth is, we don't have to imagine it. We are already seeing glimpses of it. We are seeing a world with less oxygen, less biodiversity, and more extreme weather events. We are seeing a world where our food supply is more fragile and where our sense of connection to the natural world is slowly eroding. And here is a little-known fact that adds to the somber nature of this reflection. The very air we breathe is a direct result of the plant life that exists on this planet. A significant portion of the oxygen we rely on is produced by tiny marine algae called phytoplankton. These microscopic organisms are the silent, unseen heroes of our atmosphere, and they, too, are under threat from climate change and ocean acidification. The scale of this problem is so vast, it's hard to grasp. The destruction of a single forest is a tragedy, but the slow decline of an entire class of life is a planetary disaster in the making. This is a profound reckoning, a moment of quiet reflection on our relationship with the world around us. We are not separate from the plant kingdom. We are a part of it. Our breath is their gift, our food is their energy, and our very existence is a testament to their patient, tireless work. The fading green is not just a problem for plants, it is a problem for us. And the question that hangs in the air is this: will we listen to the quiet alarm bells before it's too late? We have reached the end of our journey, a long and winding descent from the quiet beginnings of a planet to the patient, living fabric that holds it all together. We started with a world of gray skies and poisonous air, and we watched as the first green architects began their work, exhaling oxygen, molecule by precious molecule, over millions of years. We followed the sunbeam into the heart of a leaf, a living solar panel, and marveled at the silent symphony of photosynthesis, a quantum process that turns light into life. We then went deeper into the hidden wisdom of the roots, those silent explorers that anchor a plant and communicate with the vast, bustling metropolis of the soil. We followed water's pilgrimage, a journey that defies gravity, and we watched the graceful dance between a flower and its pollinator, a collaboration of color, scent, and gentle deception. We saw the seed, that miniature time capsule, holding the blueprint for a future forest, and we heard the quiet whispers of the fungal web, a subterranean internet of cooperation and shared memory. We meditated on the profound work of the Earth's hidden alchemists, the decomposers who turned death into new life, and we listened to the ancient stories written in the growth rings of trees. We considered the unseen language of plants, a world of chemical signals and silent conversations. We then brought it all home, to our breath, their gift, and the fundamental covenant that binds us to every leaf and every blade of grass. We looked at the magnificent, microscopic world of the leaf, and we glimpsed the strange, beautiful, and utterly mysterious quantum secrets that plants seem to hold. And finally, we reflected on the fading green and the profound reckoning we face as we stand at a crossroads, our future intertwined with theirs. So, where does this leave us? Not with a list of facts, but with a new perspective. The world is not just a collection of objects and events. It is a single, interconnected, and living story. We are a part of that story, not just as observers, but as participants. We are the inheritors of a world built by green architects, sustained by living solar panels, and connected by a wisdom that is far older and more patient than our own. The true magic of the world is not in the grand, explosive events of human history, but in the quiet, persistent, and utterly essential work that is happening all around us, all the time. This story, this quiet meditation, is now at an end. I hope that as you drift into sleep, you carry with you a new sense of wonder. I hope you feel the profound connection that binds you to every plant, every tree, and every single molecule of air. The world is a much friendlier and more beautiful place when you realize that you are not alone, that you are a part of a patient system that has been humming along for eons, all just for you to take a breath. I'd like to gently ask one last time, where is the place you're staying now? The time in that place, at this very moment. How is it flowing? Just feel it. Feel the quiet stillness of your own space. Feel the rhythm of your own breath, and know that it is a part of a larger, grander rhythm that flows through every living thing. It's time to let go now. Let your thoughts and worries gently brush past you. Let them slowly fade into the soft whisper of the night. You are held by this patient world. You are safe. You are a part of a story that is much bigger than yourself. Sleep well, my companion, wherever and whenever you are. Sweet dreams.